on to a couple of losses of last week, and I want to talk to you first about Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
I didn't have the reaction that I was seeing in the culture, which is like, oh, cuddly Ozzy of the reality show The Osbournes, like the wacky rock and roll drug-addled dad. He was so fun. Like I was like, this guy was dark. I never bought that the bat that he bit the head off of, that he thought it was a fake. There is no mistaking a fake inert plastic bat for a live one that is doubtless struggling to get out of your slimy, sweaty grip. And he did it with Doves at a record executive meeting. He bit the head off of at least one. They were practically throwing up. And he was
You're
like,
s-
yeah, that was great. Go on. Go
you're
on.
saying that from a perspective of somebody that is sober. God knows what he was on when he bit that. So
Billy, but we've known a lot of addicts. We come from a
yeah,
huge Irish Catholic family, okay? And we grew up in a huge town full of Irish Catholics. So it's like they were in our family, in our friend group. You know, did
Ozzy's
you
next
ever
level
know an
though.
addict who bit the head off a live animal, a bird?
No, no, but
Okay.
Ozzy is next level. And
I think Ozzy was a psychopath.
he was, but I had a little bit. I understand your reaction to it, but I have my own thoughts, and I listened to 104.3 played just Ozzy on the string, Ozzy and Sabbath, and there's a little part of you that goes when each one of these celebrities die. You lose a little part of yourself, a little part of your childhood, your adolescence, or your early 20s, where it's a time that you had no cares, you had all freedom in the world. And when you see, a global icon like Ozzy, when he passes, part of you goes with him. And yeah, he was all those things, and not the greatest guy, guy that would, kill a live animal, or some of the stuff he did. I'm sure we don't even know a
Hmm.
small percentage of it. He was still there for generations. There's a part of his music that I think probably appeals more to men than maybe women, kind of like Zeppelin. We've had that
I
conversation
love
with
Led
more.
Zeppelin and I love old Black Sabbath and Ozzy. And I mean, Crazy Train is one of the greatest songs ever. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can appreciate him and what he brought to music. And I was looking back at some of the coverage of him from the 80s, and I kind of get why. It seems almost quaint now, but remember when there was the huge parents activist group formed by Tipper Gore, that great
Mm-hmm.
killjoy? And she was like, Prince is sullying the minds of an entire generation. We all turned out fine, okay? The Empire State Building went purple when Prince died. I don't think it's going to happen for Tipper. But you know, I remember the coverage of Ozzy and heavy metal and death metal, and like how it was bringing Satan into America's living rooms.
Yeah, if
And
you
how
played
it's
albums backwards, you were hearing messages to commit suicide. Like, yeah, all that. I
yeah.
It's just
And
it's
then
still a part of our history. It's a part of our childhood and adolescence that is now gone. I think
and I
that's a big part of it.
I think your point is absolutely spot on. And I also think he did give something to the culture. The original Osbourne's show was unlike anything else that we had ever seen. And to
Would
see,
that
I
be like
remember.
the original reality TV? Was there anything
No, I
before
think
that?
Real World. I mean, there
Okay.
was a PBS series about a family called the Loud Family that really was the originator. But the Real World, I think World, excuse me, was the first. And then, but in terms of like fly on the wall inside the home of a family, just sort of living their life, except the father is a huge rock star who has since been defanged. And I'll never, I think I was working at Spin Magazine when we got the trailer for that. And we were all doubled over, like we were crying with laughter. Like there was this famous scene where his Kelly, who was very young at the time, comes home with a tattoo. And Ozzy's like apoplectic. And he's like, oh my God, your mother's going to kill me. Your mother's going to kill me because it's like it was kind of like the joke, like Tony Soprano could run the mob,
Yeah.
but he couldn't run his own house.
Yeah. 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 I
Um, sorry, go on.
no. It, Losing Ozzy. That it. I get the struggle with it because of the person, but it's still. I think it's still a sad day, and there's still a big piece of rock and roll that, or metal, that just it wouldn't exist. Music wouldn't be the same without him today.
Agreed completely. Very well said. Couldn't have said it better. And on to another one who I know is near and dear to your heart, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that one and the cultural impact of Hulk Hogan.
So I remember the first time I saw Hulk Hogan as a kid was um, early '80s. The Iron Sheik had just won the wrestling title, the heavyweight title, and he was an Iranian that would come out into the ring and he would spit on the American flag and stomp it down. And then here came Hulk Hogan, who I hadn't heard of before. I don't think many people had, I guess, except for his small role in Rocky III. And he comes
Mm-hmm.
out and he saves the country. He beats the Iranian and he brings back the title and the glory to the United States. And then, all through his career, with the WWF, or WWE as it's now known, he's the icon. He's the Michael Jordan of professional wrestling. He first put it on the map, for others to follow, and for the billion-dollar industry it is today. Another part of it is then, you don't always want to meet your heroes, and you see what happens behind closed doors in some of these shows, and that whole Gawker sex tape, with his friend's wife. Like, that was a hard one to see and read about. Seeing that one, that was just ugly in so many different ways. But yeah, I mean, the struggles with his daughter, towards the end, it sounds like he tried to make amends, but for whatever reason was unable to. But
That one always really hit me. I just
yeah.
always felt that he had been somehow, in some way, inappropriate with her. Remember they had that reality show and he was always talking about her in like a bikini and like it just it felt ugh, ugh. But you know, to your 80s recollection of him, and he was such an icon in the 80s. I always associate him with that era in American history, which was like
Mm.
really the people who were big were big. They were monolithic. It was, I didn't care at all about wrestling, and I knew who the guy was, and I knew what he did, and I knew he had like this look and like the yellow and the ripping of the tank, and it felt very in line. It's funny you mentioned Rocky 3. Like, it's a very Sylvester Stallone approach to America, even, and Schwarzenegger too.
Hmm.
America versus the bad guys.
Hmm.
They always depicted America as the good guys, and I think that's sort of why he's stuck in the culture for so long, I think, because of that.
The other thing is, back then, to reach that level, to succeed that high, um, you had to work. You had to have a great either storyline or a look, or just have so much talent. And then there was no social media, so the attention span wasn't 35 seconds. Like, you could hold an audience for a while, and he did for many many years, and even carried that into. I mean, he was still wrestling in his 50s, and still drawing crowds. And despite as he got older, some of the other wrestlers that were coming up, there was some debates with him about how good of a co-worker he was in the ring, and would he allow someone else to succeed at his own fear of his own loss. I mean, there was a lot of that was out there, but still, I mean, same way with Ozzy and music. I don't know if wrestling is where it is today without Hulk Hogan.
Same, the culture isn't where it is. We don't have The Rock as a global export in all forms of media without Hulk Hogan.
No, 100%. I mean, Hulk Hogan paved the way for all those guys. And The Rock was like, I know it was because of frequencies. He'll make any movie like Samuel L. Jackson, but I mean, he was the highest paid actor in a couple of years from what I read. Has to start somewhere, and I'm sure that the wrestling. I saw on the news, the wrestling world, they did a real nice tribute to him as a send off, and it's again part of your childhood, right? Hulk Hogan was probably the early, preteen years, and then the adolescence, and then Ozzy took from there, and you lost two real important figures in a very short time.